Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. You'll notice I'm not holding a bot in my hand, and that's because this is an exciting day. You see, we're going to hear the closing arguments and give a final verdict as it relates to the Unique Toys Warlord Combiner. Made up, of course, from 5 smaller robots. And it is their version, a third-party take, if you will, on the Transformers character of Predaking. And I know that there's been a lot talked about him in the past, but how does he stack up as of 2018? If you've been staying with us for the last little while, then you know that I've looked at each individual bot. Well, how do they go together, and how does he work as a cohesive unit? That's going to be our focus today in the latest GotBot True Review. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're here for the first time, then I definitely welcome you. My name is Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share. More important than ever now that you hit that subscribe button, show some support and some love. Talk to me. Speak to me. I love to hear from you guys. Check out Machinery of Man, the Everything Factor. And, of course, look for me everywhere. And like I said, I do not have any bots in my hand. That's because they're all backstage. They're excited. They're excited to come together to kind of present their best to you. Here's the thing. Some of them work better than others. And, to be fair, some of them are graded less stringently because as time has gone on, they've undergone price drops and kind of market advantages that have worked for them, while others have kind of stayed in the same rut as their initial release. No better, no worse. But see, then something happened that changed the entire playing field, because while you have members of this team that go for as low as $19.99, and you have other members that go for as high as $109 US, I might add, there is another option. You can get the entire set at once. Clear the Predaking Combiner away in one fell swoop for a relatively sweet price of $120 or so US if you look around hard enough. Well, that is in the ballpark of a Combiner Wars combiner. So, here's what I would say at this point. If you opt to try and get this set one piece at a time, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. That's not the way I would go. I would save my money. I would buy the entire set if you want. Naturally, that being said, what does he go best with? What does he scale best with? I've seen him compared to an awful lot of kind of other third-party combiners. But today, when I look at putting this guy together, we're going to kind of finish it off by having him stack up next to some very well-known versions of combiners and other toys so that we can see exactly how and where he fits in best. Stick around because things are about to get interesting when we look at this guy in the modern age. Let's get over to the table so that we can see how he goes together. And here we are getting ready to take a look at this entire set. Now, that being said, I firmly believe that this is the best way to get these guys. All in one fell swoop. You can get them at a relatively good price. We're going to see how this guy goes together. We're going to measure them as we always do with paint apps, posability, playability, and of course transformation. We're going to see how he compares to some more modern, more popularized, more well-known figures. I've seen a lot of comparisons with a lot of third-party figures over the years, but I have not seen a whole lot with more kind of common figures, such as the Combiner Wars combiners. So we're going to see all that in just a little bit. But before we do that, let's kind of do a very quick review previously on GotBot. And previously we began with this guy. This is the Warhawk, and to put him in his limb mode, all we basically did was sandwich the legs together, and between the two ankles we put in the fist section. It's on a ball joint that comes out to a little nub that has 2 rectangular tabs on it that go into slots on the ankles. We turned them at the waist. We took the tummy piece and turned it around so that the tail feathers are facing the same way as the bird head. And of course we picked up the combiner port. And he makes a pretty effective arm, I do think. And then, ironically, we had the leg known as Ironhead. You collapse the legs, you put them together. Underneath there are two rounded ports and there are two, I guess, pegs on the foot piece itself. They both go up securely. It gives a nice ankle tilt at the time. You know, I dig it. I like it. He has a combiner peg here that we now face up straight because it's going to be part of the knee. The animal head goes forward and we kind of collapse the arms on the side. He holds together relatively well and quite cohesively. Of course, that's not the only leg we have because Savage Bull becomes one as well. We do the exact same thing. We put his legs together and we slot them up. And the foot has two rounded pegs on it that go up kind of in underneath the, I guess like where the ball of his foot would be basically. We bring the arms in close to the body and the combiner port up. Again, it's a pretty cohesive leg. Of course the head of the animal came forward and his robot head is inside there as well. I dig the look of it. Now, for both legs, I will remind everyone of this. Do not, though you can do it, I would advise against pushing the legs all the way up so that they're completely flush with the hips. Because they tab in sections that if you're trying to separate them and turn this back into an individual robot, it becomes really scary to get it out. Really scary. I would say collapse the legs until it is comfortably tight. I mean, it's not, the friction won't let it fall out. It still looks great. It is still a highly effective leg. And finally, the War Panther gives us the other arm. Again, we kind of collapse the shoulders down and into the body. We turn them at the waist. We put the two legs together and we kind of sandwich the fist between the ankles. And in this case, we put this huge cannon on the side of his arm. This is how he looks with the combiner port out. I think, again, it's an effective looking arm. I totally dig it. And then we have the torso-rific main event. Now, there's a lot to this guy. We don't just transform him. We add on a hip skirt from the back and another piece from the front. That's not the way it looks in the instructions, but trust me. You put the back piece on first, then the front piece, and they go on quite tightly, actually. The combined mode head also goes on nice and securely, but it is an add-on. The entire backpack is also an add-on. I now have the wings splayed out because the wings themselves can actually angle all the way up and down and like way back. I think that is so impressive. You can ratchet the whole gold piece all the way down or up. That is to your taste. You can open out each one of these feather pieces, I suppose. And even within that, you have these little gold sections. They are super duper sharp, trust me. I kind of poked my fingers a bunch of times. These cannons up here can stay in his arm if you want. A lot of people do it. They leave it there and they put the combined mode arm onto it. I can't get those to slot in that way. So instead, I actually put them up here, which is, according to the instructions, where they belong. We have a little peg here. I would venture to say it's 3mm, and it goes into a hole right here, almost up near the top. You will notice it, no problem. It pegs in quite securely and still leaves a respectable range of motion to those shoulder cannons. But nevertheless, this is where we will be starting to put this guy together. And we're going to begin with the easiest part, his legs. And in terms of those legs, here's the orientation you have. Now, yes, each foot could go on either leg, so you could change them if you were so inclined. But, that being said, this is the way that they're supposed to be with The bull is the left leg and the rhino as the right. These go on relatively easily. Underneath here we have two kind of rounded slots, and they go simply down over these pegs. It's not too hard to get them in, and once it's done, it is relatively secure. So we take this piece and slot it on, and we do the same with the other side. It does take a little bit of force, but nothing outstanding. Holding on to the guy to do it is probably your biggest chore. And once you have both legs into position, this is basically what you have. A lot of people say he's very back heavy because of the winged backpack, and indeed he is. Right here now he is admittedly leaned forward, but he is standing just fine, and of course I don't have any arms in this guy yet to balance him. It may have appeared like I was struggling slightly with the legs. I really wasn't. It's just a matter of kind of getting the right leverage to get it on. They're really not that hard to get on or get off. They're the easy part. Now we come to the challenging part, the arms, and they are indeed very challenging, at least on this copy. We have a shoulder that is shaped like a hex, and I'm going to sort of try and show this to you now. It looks like this, and that needs to go into the port that's on the shoulder of the torso, or if you leave the guns in the shoulders, it needs to go into that port. You would think it's fairly easy, but it is so hard to line this up. So we might as well start with this guy. Why not? And you're probably going to see me struggle here, because this is not, like I said, this is not easy. You need a good grip on the body. It probably helps to get the wings out of the way. You need to try and line this up and then slot it in. Whew. And only by the grace of Primus did I get it in. I'm going to tell you now, I know that there was a cut there. It took me a good 5 minutes to have enough power to squeeze this in, and I'm going to tell you, I'm a guy that works out regularly. It takes a lot of force, but once it is into the torso, it is so super duper secure. Amazingly so. It's just an absolute bear to get it in there. What about the other arm? Well, that would be Warhawk, and he's no easier either. So let's see what we can do with him. Turning this guy to the side, and now we have the port here. Here's Warhawk. Again, you need to try and get that leverage to do it. And I close the combiner peg. Oh, the agony of my arms from putting on his arms. Again, it's been about another 5 minutes trying to get Warhawk on, because, at least on this copy, they are very, very tight. I mean, so much so that if you look at my hand, you can see red marks right here. If you look at this one, you can see red marks right here. That's from putting the arms on. That is solely from putting the arms on. Now, we're left with a couple of pieces. I'm just going to mention it. It's not something I do, but I'll mention it here. There is an option. If you want to take the smaller wings of Warhawk, these ones, there are pegs on the back, so you can actually peg these in and have them down lower. I've seen it done. I feel like the kind of grip is a little tenuous, so I don't really do it. Some people probably have better luck with it. These have a reputation for kind of breaking. I don't want to break mine, so I'm not going to do that, but I could see the argument for it. I have mentioned before that this gigantic sword has a slot right here. It can go in either hand. Since we have the cannon on this arm, we could put it in the other hand, but we'll hold off on that for now. In terms of the paint apps for this guy, well, going by the animation is again challenging here. The thighs should be completely red. The whole kind of tummy section should be gold. Basically everything under the lion's head should be gold. The feet, they tend to range a little bit between gray or red. His hands are always gray. The wings, they should be really kind of orange all the way out to the tip, and the rest of it should be black. But there was, as I've said before, so much variation with that third season animation that it's kind of difficult here to mark him that way. You know, the arm made up of Warhawk, or Dive Bomb if you will. The lower leg section is black here. It should be red. The upper part should be completely orange, which it sort of is. The other arm should have a orange lower section, which it does, and a red upper section. The two legs are fairly accurate, but I think the way we need to measure this guy, because we've done it all along, is how well he stacks up to the original G1 toy. And in that regard, this guy stacks up tremendously well. The legs are pretty much perfect for the most part. There's some black missing on the sides of this guy's chest, but besides that, it's pretty accurate. There's more black here that is orange on the original toy. The kind of whole torso section is pretty spot on, as is the arm over on this side. And the arm over here is pretty darn close. A couple of slight liberties. About the only real difference, you know, the hands and the feet, by the way, are also great. But the only real difference to note here is that his bigger arm cannon is on this arm instead of the other one. And it should be on the other one, but I think that that's forgivable. I'm going to say that as a representation of Predaking, this guy honestly is a solid 9.5 in terms of his paint apps. It is the most G1 accurate that we have, at least to date. What about his articulation? Well, that's been a source of debate for a long time. I kind of dig the articulation. We have a head that can go left, right, up, down. We have these cannons that can move all over the place. I already showed the wings. Now they can go back, they can go up, you know, all the way like that. How these sections can stay out like they are, or you can collapse all of this and bring it down like that if you're so inclined. It's really sort of up to you. I'll leave it all out for now. He doesn't, I guess he doesn't really have a waist. I mean, you can sort of fake a turn with him, but it's really because of the way his knees work and his thigh swivel. He doesn't really have a waist because of the pieces that go on. He can bend forward, he can bend back because of the legs of Sharp Claw. In terms of the arms, they can go way out to the side on heavy ratchets that hold pretty well. They can go forward, back. We have a bicep swivel because of the waist of this guy and the waist of that guy. We have double jointed elbow, so I totally dig that. We have a wrist swivel. The wrist can go in like that. We have a hinge at the base of the thumb and two more hinges on the thumb. We have ball joints at the base of each finger and then two more hinges, so you can do so much with his fingers in terms of opening them out and making a fist and grabbing things and whatnot. You know, really any pose you want. Now, it's a shame that the fingers are all the same length. It would be nice if they weren't, but such is life. Beggars can't be choosers. I think that hands have been improved since this guy came out, so I would like to kind of see how a new set of hands would work for this guy. But you can see that arm does the exact same thing. In terms of his lower body, the hip skirt pieces, they can get out of the way, you know, to this degree. They could technically open up more, but they kind of hit into the body. So you can get the legs, you know, in terms of splits, he can go out to here. He has ankle tilts. He's not really going to hold well like that, but if you are patient enough, he will. A lot of people say he won't hold like this. He will just collapse under his own weight. No, he won't. He's not supported here now, and he's holding just fine. But It can be tenuous unless you kind of find the right balance point for him. Standing him back up, and they are friction out to the side. I think that probably should have been ratcheted. We have, if we get this hip skirt out of the way, a leg kick all the way out to the front. It can go, you know, way to the back. We have a thigh swivel. We have a knee that is really, really deep. So I totally dig that. Besides, for the ankle tilt, we have toes that can lean down. We have an entire heel section that can lean down. And the foot can even lean up. I think it's incredibly, incredibly versatile, personally speaking. Does he not stand up? Because that's been the big thing with this guy. He can be back heavy, but it's about finding the right balance for him. Like any figure, it's not that he doesn't stand up, it's just you have to find the right way to get him to stand up. There you go, I got him again. It's not that bad. Really not. As for his sword, well, the palm has like a ridge on it, so you can take the sword here, place it in the hand. If I can find the sweet spot there. There you go. To go on over, wrap his fists, his fingers around it, and he holds it just fine. It can go forward just fine. He can hold it up just fine. Now, granted, if you turn it too much, it does fall, like right there. So there is a tipping point, but I mean, right there, he's holding it, no problem. A lot of the combined mode issues that people point out with this guy, I really don't see. So, in terms of his paint apps, he's a 9.5. In terms of his articulation, as far as I'm concerned, he's a 9.5. I think he's pretty fantastic. I don't have the issues that a lot of people have had with him. Maybe I'm just lucky. In terms of transformation, well, that's where the problems come in. We have a case here of, and I don't really know how to say this, we have a case here of things that are done well, but it becomes cumbersome and challenging when we get to the arms. The legs, they're okay. Maybe a little hard to get in, but nothing major. The arms are so frustrating to peg into place that it takes a few minutes. You're gonna probably hurt your hand. Maybe it's just a tolerance of mine, and results will vary. But they're a nuisance. I don't look forward to having to put them on. I don't look forward to having to get them off. That being said, some people have complained about the plastic. Not once have I felt like I'm going to break this guy. I really haven't had that concern, except for when I had the legs pushed up flush with the hips on these two guys. Then I was concerned. But in terms of anything else, no, not at all. He feels good. But because it's so frustrating doing those arms, I have to give his transformation, and because of the fact he has a lot of parts, extra parts that go on, I have to give his transformation an overall score of about a 6. It could have been accomplished so much better. As a representation of Predaking, I think that the guy is a solid 9. But, again, as I've often said, that comes with a bit of a caveat. If you're looking for, you know, masterpiece or the absolute best display option, this guy's probably not going to be for you. But here's what he does kind of look good with and interact with the best. Here he is with Power of the Prime's Grimlock. So that's how he scales with a typical Voyager class figure as of today. I looked at that Grimlock in episode 345. He is, of course, much larger. We all know by now that we are waiting on a Titan class Predaking to be released. When I think of a Titan, I expect him to be 2 feet tall and turn into a city. I don't know how big the Titan class Predaking will be, but I gotta believe that something the size of Fortress Maximus here would be just too big. I looked at Fort Max in full, as well as some comparisons and kind of an ultimate base mode way back in episodes, I do believe, 116, 117, 118. A long, long time ago. Of course, and rightfully so, many will make the argument that, hey, we've gotten a Titan class combiner before that was not 2 feet tall. And true, and I accepted Devastator because I said, hey, you're getting really 7 robots in one, because you have the 6 members and Big Devastator himself. Again, I'm not sure that I want a Predaking quite as large as that. I could sort of buy it with Devastator because I said they're 6 construction vehicles and they're huge. You know, construction vehicles just by nature are large. Predaking, on the other hand, is actually made up of 5 robot animals. I don't think that they would be quite as big as construction vehicles, but that's just my logic. Maybe yours is different. The truth is, he's basically about the size of Primus, or Planet Cybertron, if you will, in the most recent Last Night line. It's about 14 inches or so. I looked at Primus in full in episode 100 a long time ago. Here we have him next to the Transformers Prime version of Predaking. Now, admittedly, this was called a Voyager, though I think it's really more of a leader class figure. So you have an idea of kind of what a leader class figure would be like compared to this guy. He's still significantly larger. And here we have the last major comparison, and the one that probably means the most to most people. How does he scale with Combiner Wars? Well, we have Bruticus and we have Computron. I use both of these because Bruticus has the stock, you know, hand, foot, gun piece, as where Computron had the custom parts that came with his box set. But you can see that while this Predaking does stand slightly taller, I think that it is a good match for 2 reasons. One, because I think it's kind of cool for Predaking to have that stature and be an ominous presence. But more importantly, stylistically, these guys look good together. They look like they belong together. And for that reason, I think that the Unique Toys Warlord does absolutely still succeed as a representation of Predaking, at least as it relates to what I've shown you here, which admittedly is not going to be for everybody. Still, I like that. I'm a big fan, and as far as I'm concerned, there's only one left. Bring me my Abominus. And alas, we are back here. And you can see the good and the bad when it comes to the Unique Toys Warlord, their version of Predaking. On the whole, I like him. You know by now how I scored him. Relatively high, but that comes with a certain caveat, and that is that if you're looking for something that can fit with a masterpiece collection, this is not the guy for that. If you're looking for something that has the most intricate of detailing, the most intricate of paint, this is not the guy for that. If you're looking for the most imposing display piece, something that you just want to put on the shelf and kind of never touch, I don't think this is the guy for that either. But if your collection is largely made up, or at least the combiner portion of it, with representations from the Combiner Wars line, or you're on a budget and looking for something affordable to represent the character at least respectably well, then I would say that this guy is a complete success. Are certain things dated? Sure. Such as all of the parts forming that goes into making his torso and his wing pack. And even the combined mode cranium. Nevertheless, while he isn't perfect, I do think that he looks fantastic next to those other Combiner Wars incarnations. And for that reason, I actually kind of score the guy pretty well. And I do give him a recommend in that respect. But you have to know what his strengths are. You have to know what his weaknesses are. and you have to know exactly what he fits in with. It's very specific for this guy to be a success. Anything outside of that, then he sort of falls short, and that's understandable. But naturally, since we're looking at versions of this character, he's not the only one that we have. We're going to look at another one coming up pretty soon, and that will kind of lead us to a little bit of a broader discussion, but I wanted to get this guy out of the way first and foremost. Final verdict, he's a success if you are a big-time chug collector. At least in my opinion. Let me know what you think. As always, you know I love to hear from you guys. Again, I'm going to ask that you hit that subscribe button, show a bit of support. It is always more than appreciated, more than valued than you could ever know. Thanks for dropping by. Thanks for giving me some of your extremely valuable time. It does mean a lot. And I very much look forward to the next time that you and I get together for another visit right here inside the video.